Metropolitan Police detectives sit in a darkened room, watching footage on a computer screen. It's January 2024. They've just seized cameras, SD cards, and phones from a student flat on Churchyard Row, Elephant and Castle, London. What they're seeing makes them physically ill. Video after video, women unconscious. A young man filming himself violating them. The detectives keep counting. 5 victims, 6, 7, 8. They're only halfway through. This is the case of Zhenhao, believed to be one of the UK's most prolific serial rapists. The catalyst that started the investigation was a report of a young Chinese woman who was assaulted in May 2023 at the same flat in Elephant and Castle. She'd been at a friend's party in the same apartment building when she met someone she knew from university, Zhenhao. He was a PhD student, 27 years old. He seemed harmless. He'd invited her back to his flat for drinks. She remembered sitting on his couch with a glass of wine. He kept refilling it. She remembered feeling dizzy, trying to leave. She made it to the door. Then he grabbed her by her clothes and dragged her back. She was crying. He pushed more alcohol into her hands. Then her memory goes blank, just fragments. Images of the ceiling, recalling drifting in and out of consciousness. Then nothing. The next morning, she woke up without her clothes, disoriented and sick. She knew something terrible had happened, but couldn't remember most of it. She called the emergency services for help, but the translation service failed. The interpreter struggled to convey what the woman was saying. It was frustrating. Trauma on top of trauma. She decided she couldn't go through with it. She withdrew her complaint. But this woman did something important. She posted about her experience on Chinese social media platforms, RedNote and WeChat. She warned other women. She named him. Another woman saw the post, and she realized she'd had the same experience. She'd met Zhou on a dating app in September 2021. They'd had dinner in Chinatown. He'd pressured her to drink whiskey, a lot of it, and she ended up being sick in the street. The next clear memory she has is being raped at his flat. She asked him to stop. Then she lost consciousness. When she saw the first woman's post, she understood what had happened. She reached out. They compared stories. Same man, same pattern. The second woman went to the police in February 2024. Fortunately, the police were already at work, thanks to the first woman's report. On January 25th, 2024, officers knocked on the door of a flat on the 28th floor of a tower block on Churchyard Row. Zhenhao answered. He was calm, well-dressed in expensive designer clothes. When officers told him he was under arrest for rape, he didn't resist. He just nodded and followed them out. Inside the flat, investigators found what looked like the trappings of wealth and success. Designer clothes, a green Rolex watch worth over 10,000 pounds, or around $13,500. Behind a curtain, more than 70 bottles of expensive alcohol. The monthly rent was 4,000 pounds. But when they searched the bedroom, they found something else. Several hidden cameras positioned around the room. Some were tiny, the size of a thumb. Then they discovered SD cards in drawers, each one labeled with dates and initials. Multiple phones and laptops. In the wardrobe, pushed to the back, they found a box. Inside were items that didn't belong to Zhou. A black dress, earrings, hairbands, a key, small personal items, mostly things you might not notice were missing. Detectives would later call it his trophy box. In another drawer, they found bottles of butanediol. It's an industrial solvent that converts to GHB when you ingest it. Next to the bottles were precision pipettes, the kind you'd use in a laboratory to measure exact amounts of liquids. And there were even printed materials, guides downloaded from the internet about drugs and how to use them. Forum posts about rendering people unconscious. One post promised satisfaction with the victim rarely being able to remember what happened. But it was the digital evidence that showed the full picture. Forensic specialists started downloading data from the devices. The scale was enormous. 6.5 trillion bytes of information, 9 million messages on WeChat, and 1,277 videos. The videos were organized carefully, labeled by date, stored in folders. Each one showed Zhou filming himself raping unconscious women. Some of the videos had audio. In one recording, you can hear a woman's voice. She's frightened. She says, "I really don't want this. I beg you, don't do this." Zhou's response is calm. He says, "Don't push me. It's pointless. The sound insulation here is very good." Detectives began watching the footage in shifts. They took breaks. These were experienced investigators who'd worked on murders, terrorism, and child abuse cases. But this was different. The calculation behind it, the precision, the volume of evidence. As they went through the videos, they noticed something. Some attacks happened in Zhou's current flat. Others happened at a different address near Russell Square, an affluent area in central London. That was his previous student accommodation, but some of the videos were clearly filmed somewhere else. Different rooms, different furniture, Chinese characters visible on product labels in the background. Working with Chinese authorities, police determined that Zhou had committed at least 7 rapes in China. On January 30th, 2024, detectives brought Zhou in for questioning. Even though he was fluent in English and had been studying in the UK since 2017, he requested a Mandarin interpreter. It slowed everything down, and it gave him time to think. He sat across from the investigators, expressionless. The detectives told him they'd been watching the videos. They'd found 8 cases of rape so far. Zhou's face didn't change, but his hands tightened on the table. The detective asked if the rape started when he came to the UK or before that. When was the first one? Once he started, did he find it unable to stop? Zhou's answer was the same every time. No comment. Eventually, though, he did speak, not about the attacks themselves, but about his preferences. He admitted that he liked pornography showing women who appeared to be sleeping. He said he enjoyed taking photos during sex. He told police he liked it because the women appeared to be still and quiet during sex. Still and quiet, like objects. He insisted everything in the video was consensual, that the women had voluntarily taken drugs and alcohol, that some of it was role-playing. The police didn't believe him. By the time investigators finished their analysis, they'd identified crimes against 10 different women. 3 women in London, 7 in China. 11 rape charges in total because one victim was raped twice. But here's the thing. Detectives could only identify 2 of those 10 victims. The other 8 women were in the videos. You could see them. Unconscious, violated, filmed. But police were unable to identify them. But before we find out how this investigation progressed, let's find out more about Zhou. Zhenhao was born on February 20th, 1997 in Dongguan, Guangdong Province in southern China. Dongguan is a wealthy manufacturing city. His father worked at a state-owned enterprise. His mother was a teacher. The family had money and connections. Zhou was academically gifted. He excelled in math and science. In 2017, when he was 20, he moved to the United Kingdom to study mechanical engineering at Queen's University, Belfast. It was an exchange program for bright Chinese students. He spent 2 years there. In 2019, he moved to London to study at University College London, one of the top universities in the world. He did a master's degree in mechanical engineering, then started a PhD. He was experiencing significant academic success. His grades were good. His supervisors were impressed. On the surface, Zhou looked successful. He wore expensive designer clothes, an expensive watch. He'd paid an amount in rent that would be out of reach to all but the wealthiest students. He'd had cosmetic procedures, a hair transplant, surgery to enhance his eyes and chin. He wanted to look perfect, but beneath his manicured appearance lay something much darker. At his trial, the two victims who had been identified gave heartbreaking accounts of how Zhou's crimes had affected them. The first woman, the one who was attacked in May 2023, told the court what happened that night. When she arrived at his flat, Zhou was welcoming. He was friendly. He offered her wine, and he kept refilling her glass. He'd say, "Finish the drink. It should not be wasted," again and again. Within half an hour, she felt dizzy. She tried to stand up to leave. Her legs didn't work properly. She made it to the door, but he physically blocked her and dragged her back into his bedroom. She was crying on the floor. When she tried to crawl away, he pulled her back. He pushed vodka into her hands. Out of desperation, she told him she'd stay if he paid her 100,000 yuan, about 10,000 pounds. She didn't expect him to pay. She just wanted to leave. Police found video footage of this attack. You can hear her screaming, begging to be allowed to go home, saying she feels unwell. You can see Zhou pushing her back down every time she tries to get up. The next morning, she woke at 6 a.m., not wearing any clothes, feeling dizzy. Her underwear was later found in Zhou's wardrobe. Another trophy. She sent him messages afterward. "You are so disgusting," she said. "You should feel guilty for what you did." Zhou replied, "I had too much to drink and did something wrong. Can we discuss this later?" She sought emergency contraception and post-exposure HIV medication that made her sick for a month. She went back to the clinic for STI tests 3 times over 6 months. She was living with fear. In her victim impact statement, read in court, she said, "I could not sleep. I could not eat. I felt disgusting." Physically, it was much worse than mentally. The second identified victim was raped in October 2021. She'd met Zhou on a dating app in September. They'd had consensual sex once. The next month, she invited him to her birthday party. They went to Chinatown, drank alcohol, moved to another venue. Her memory becomes unclear after that. She remembers being sick in the street, then being raped at his flat. She asked him to stop, then she lost consciousness. She now lives in China. She gave evidence remotely, her face obscured. Her statement described the horror of having what was once a blank memory filled in with knowledge of violence. The violation of learning she'd been filmed. The investigation was extensive. 2 countries, 2 different languages, digital forensics on an enormous scale. Coordination with China's Ministry of Public Security. Each message had to be reviewed. Detectives spent months translating 9 million WeChat messages from simplified Chinese to English. They worked with forensic specialists to analyze video metadata to find out when and where they were created. They examined all the details visible in the footage: furniture, electrical outlets, product labels, and even the angles of sunlight filtering through the windows. The WeChat messages clearly showed how Zhou operated. He systematically targeted Chinese students in London. He joined WeChat groups for students at various universities, groups for study sessions, language exchange, socializing. He was active, helpful, friendly, and he built trust. He also used dating apps, Bumble, Tinder, Chinese apps like Soul. His profile showed him well-dressed, posing at London landmarks. His bio mentioned his PhD at UCL, his interests. He presented himself as charming, intelligent, successful, a fellow Chinese student who understood the difficulties of being far from home. When women agreed to meet him, the pattern was the same. He invited them to his flat to study together, practice English, have drinks. Once they were inside, he'd offer cocktails, strong drinks, whiskey-based, mixed with butanediol, measured precisely with the pipettes that police found. And as I mentioned before, butanediol converts to GHB in the body. At high doses, it causes unconsciousness and it causes amnesia. So victims can't remember what happened. Joe had researched this extensively. He downloaded guides on dosing, how much to use based on body weight, how to administer it without detection. This wasn't impulsive. This was meticulously planned. Once the victims were unconscious, he raped them. He filmed his attacks with handheld cameras and 4 hidden spy cameras positioned around his bedroom. And he kept the footage organized, labeled, sorted by date and location. He also took photographs. And he took items from the women. Jewelry, clothing, mostly small things that the women might not notice were gone. And he kept them in his trophy box. The investigation showed that Joe's attacks increased in frequency over time. Early videos from 2019 and 2020 showed months between his assaults. By 2022 and 2023, there were times when he committed rape several times in the same week. A source told the BBC he was getting away with it, so he wanted to do it more and more. Police also found that Joe sometimes trapped victims in his flat against their will. Phone records show one woman called a friend at 2:47 in the morning asking for help. The call was cut off. Joe had taken her phone. She didn't leave until 3:30 the next afternoon, 13 hours later. Identifying victims was incredibly difficult. Detectives watched 1,277 videos. Many showed different women. Some showed the same woman more than once. Without clear faces in some footage, they had to look at jewelry, clothing, and other physical characteristics. Joe's case revealed something troubling about how international student communities can be exploited. Joe specifically targeted Chinese students. He used their shared language, their shared culture, their shared experience of being far from home. He knew how to build trust. Many of these students were isolated, living in a foreign country for the first time, often alone, support networks thousands of miles away. And in many Chinese communities, as in many communities around the world, reporting sexual assault carries additional stigma, cultural shame, concerns about family reputation, fear of being blamed, fear that speaking out will have consequences. The case also showed the reality of drug-facilitated sexual assault. Many of Joe's victims may have woken up feeling sick, but without clear memories. They might have blamed themselves for drinking too much. They might never have reported it because they couldn't be certain of what happened. After all, how do you report a crime you can't remember? Zhenhao Zhou's trial began in late January 2025 at Inner London Crown Court. It lasted 5.5 weeks. The prosecution presented its evidence, the videos, the messages, the trophy box, the drugs. Lawyer Catherine Farrelly told the jury that Joe appeared to be a smart and charming young man, but was in fact a persistent sexual predator, a voyeur, and a rapist. The jury had to watch footage of 9 of the rapes. They were given breaks. Counseling was available. Many appeared upset. And Joe went through it all completely expressionless. He just sat there, navy blue suit, white shirt, navy tie. After more than 19 hours of deliberation on March 5th, 2025, the jury found him guilty. 28 offenses, 11 counts of rape against 10 women, 3 counts of voyeurism, 10 counts of possessing extreme pornography, 1 count of false imprisonment, 3 counts of possessing drugs with intent to commit a sexual offense. He showed no emotion when the verdicts were read. On June 19, 2025, Judge Rosina Cottage sentenced him. She said, "There is no doubt that you planned and executed a campaign of rape that had caused devastating and long-term effects." By the time of Joe's sentencing, 1 more of the women in the videos had been identified. The 3 identified victims gave impact statements. They spoke of the devastating effects of Jo's actions. One said that she felt like a trapped animal trying to find an exit, that what happened is etched into her soul forever, and that she had feared retaliation due to Jo's family being very powerful in China. Jo was sentenced to life imprisonment, a minimum of 24 years before he's eligible for parole. After the verdict, the Metropolitan Police revealed they believe Jo may have attacked more than 50 other women. They launched an international appeal. They created a reporting portal in English and Chinese. Within weeks, 24 more women came forward. Some in the UK, others in China, some in Canada, Australia, Singapore. So the investigation is still open. There may be more trials. The full scope may never be known. 7 of the 10 women in the videos that convicted Zhenhao Zhou were drugged, raped, and filmed, but police still don't know their names. They don't know where these women are. They don't know if they even fully understand what happened to them. They could be anywhere, living their lives, working, studying, building futures. And somewhere in a police evidence locker, there are videos of something terrible that happened to them. This case revealed something else, the power of one person's courage, the first victim who reported Jo, who was brave enough to come forward despite everything, who warned others when the system failed her, who stood in court and told the truth. Her courage led to his conviction. It exposed crimes that might have continued. It gave other victims answers. It may help dozens of women understand what happened and get support. One woman's courage led to the imprisonment of a man who is believed to be one of the UK's most prolific sexual predators. That is all for today. Thanks for watching.